Hey, everyone. Andy Hall, Dr. Kennard here. I got to tell you something. There are times that I'm the only person here. It hasn't, and Biscuit's here, by the way, too. I don't think you might be able to hear my cat Biscuit kicking around the background. The girlfriend is off doing work stuff. So it's just me and the cat here alone. And yes, my cat does meow quite a bit. Um, so the rules. What are the rules, right? 4 legs good, 2 legs better, or 2 legs bad, 4 legs better. You know the reference, right? You know the reference. So I'm going to do this for 10 minutes, whatever this dumpster fire is, since there's no one joining me here, and that's cool. So I'm going to do this for a few minutes. If no one shows up, then it's just me talking into the internet void. Believe me, I've done comedy open mics where there's been not any people around besides the staff, so, and other comedians, and it really is those experiences are great, right? Those experiences doing open mics when you've been drinking for hours and there's no one around, and you try out that new joke, which is a horrible joke, and you end up in a fetal position, literally in a fetal position. I did this one joke, tried it out, and I'd been drinking for hours at this horrible bar that's actually down the street from me. What's up, Theo? And by the time I was done with the joke, I had crawled up on the floor around the mic stand in a fetal position, going, I can't believe I screwed up that joke. That was actually one of the more pleasant experiences doing open mics, comedy open mics. So this, talking into the void for a few minutes. What's up, Phil? I didn't see you in the first show. I didn't know if you were around. So talking into the void for 10 minutes. Or a few minutes. I might not do this 10 minutes. I might just do a couple more minutes before signing off. Yeah, this isn't a problem. Talking in front of people, a live crowd, and screwing up a joke. Yeah, and there are actually, Theo, there are actually some comedians who when there's, oh, you were watching, Phil? Cool. So there are some comedians, and there is some wisdom in this, that if you're just starting out, then you should intentionally bomb, right? Or you should intentionally do badly so you know how to recover, so you know what to say to a crowd. Anthony Jeselnik has this strategy that when the crowd doesn't get one of his jokes, his reply, his save, is to say something along the lines of, I thought you guys were cool. And I'll tell you something. I used that one time when I said something horrible in front of my kids, and they were just shocked. I thought you guys were cool. What's up, Tobin?
Good morning.
Good morning. You have I like the way the camera is, because you got that dramatic pose, right? We're all looking up to you now.
Yes, I'm actually sitting on a drum throne.
A drone throne?
Drum throne.
A drum throne. Oh.
And yeah, there are about to be some things happening here. I'm about to get to start working on my music again.
Oh, that's good, dude. Congratulations.
Man, what's up, Brent? And we got Dave.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Hey, guys.
Hey, what's up, Dr. Tom Pooley, de facto juggler? Yeah, I didn't practice at all, Dave. I didn't practice at all.
Yeah, throwing things at the girlfriend doesn't count as juggling practice.
No, she's. I'm happy to say that I've never had an urge to throw anything at her or to do self-harm because of any actions within our relationships or anything like that.
Oh, no, I mean, like in fun. If you see her holding the cat and you toss a pillow at her, will she drop the cat, or will she move out of the way of the pillow, or will she let the pillow hit the cat? Or
I'm glad that you're asking these important questions on the after show, Dave.
That's what I'm here to do.
I don't know. I think we're going to have to do. She's not here right now. She's actually at work, so I'm going to have to try this on a test. I'm going to have to test it out in real time, and of course, I'm going to have to do it more than once, because we just can't take an N of 1, so we have to do it at least 20, 30 times, I think.
and you're going to have to throw different objects, like a small pillow, a big pillow.
Yeah. And I want to argue with your experimental design here then.
Yeah.
Right. I think you got to compare apples to apples, and you got to do pillows to pillows. You got to do one size pillow 20 times.
Let me ask you something. Is it more fun to watch somebody juggle 3 apples, or is it more fun to watch somebody juggle a watermelon, a grape, and a banana?
Well, if we're not talking about accuracy, then it's a lot more fun to watch. And maybe even throw a chainsaw in there, right? Because I hear that's super safe.
It's a thing some people do. Yeah.
Right. And so I feel Dr. Tomfoolery is rambling. He's the rambling man. He's in and out of frame.
Yeah.
Maybe he's
looking for stuff.
Oh, looking for juggling apparatus?
Yeah.
I'm sorry I was late. I was making gravy.
Were you making real gravy? Like sausage gravy?
I made a chicken last night, and I woke up a little bit early this morning, tried to get some things done. It was garbage day. I had to do my recycling and all that.
Yeah.
And while I was doing that, I figured, hey, now's a good time to make gravy.
Sure.
But you can only make gravy at one speed. If you don't make it slow, you're not making it right.
Oh, I would agree with you on that. Yeah.
And also with the proper ingredients. It doesn't work if it's not the right ingredients. I've tried.
You're saying water and gravy mix isn't the right ingredients?
Well, no, I'm talking about doing what is that even real gravy?
No.
I'm talking about like from scratch. Like,
yeah, if you're gonna eat that, you might as well get your turkey dinner at Subway.
Yeah. Well, something can be said for one of those wonderful post-Thanksgiving turkey. Oh, hey, you got a cat.
Oh, cat juggling. Perfect. I've seen this once before.
Yeah, I'm sure it went out swimmingly well.
Don't go swimming with cats. That's way worse than juggling.
Yeah. So what's the name of your feline there, Dr. Tomfoolery?
Her name's Ziff.
Ziff.
As
Yeah.
if.
Now, Ziff, wasn't that a character from Futurama? Have we talked about this before?
That character has a name spelled differently, though.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. I thought there was some character that was Ziff, yeah. So how was your cat's name spelled?
I spelled it in the private chat, but ZIPF.
Oh, ZIPF. Okay.
Mhm.
It's amazing the things I don't really notice while doing the show, or any show for that matter. People can be like, "Hey, I'm trying to get into on the panel," or trying to draw my attention. Dave's juggling. I can just ignore a lot of the time. It is remarkable, and what I don't pay attention to.
So you're saying you need a producer?
I need someone to do competent things, Dave, for me. That's what I do need.
But
I have to. I'll tell you this story, right? I'll tell you about the level of incompetency I operate at on a normal basis. Before I joined Atheists Non-Religious, right? My blog was on Blogger, right? And Blogger is basically, it wasn't even on WordPress. I didn't even have a WordPress blog. I had it on Blogger, and I just thought, you know what I'm doing? I'm Zen juggling right now. There's just no. But yeah, for me, I was just doing stuff on Blogger, one post a day, basically. And the only reason why the blog looks as good as it does now is because someone else is doing that portion of the work.
So
I would like to help you, but I'm not sure like what I would need to do, and if I would even really I don't know if my computer speed has enough to do what may be necessary. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be willing to help.
Well, you could
But I
see
just
how
don't know.
Chris was producing the show when we were doing it all together, because it was Chris's show for all intents and purposes. But you could see the stress that was on him, Chris Mallard. because he was trying to do all the back end stuff and all the front end stuff. And that is the path to madness. That's
Actually, I tended to notice that
overdoing
Tuesday was his freshest looking day because he was usually doing a lot of stuff on the weekend to set up the show for the week. And then by the end of the week, he had been doing so many shows that he was burnt back down again, right?
Yes.
So Tuesday seemed to be his on point day in those shows.
Yeah, and that's a good observation, Dave. And this is what my advice is for people who are performing, however incompetently. No reference to anyone here on panel.
Oh no!
Is that not to burn out? Your first job is not to burn out.
Yes.
And part of that is knowing what your skill set is, knowing what you're good at, and just leaning into that. For me, my geeky knowledge about world events and history seems to be my strongest skill set here on YouTube. And that's what I lean into, the cheap jokes and stuff like that. I'm hoping that something akin to what happened to me on Path to Earth occurs, that someone likes me enough to say, hey, I want to include you on the so-and-so or the da-da-da, and maybe that'll work out. I don't know. I actually don't have a business plan. There is no plan. This is the only plan I have.
There's plan A and plan A now.
This is the alpha and the omega plan. This is it.
Andy's plan is YOLO.
Yeah, well, if I had, it isn't even a question of time, because once again, when I was talking with Chris, we were talking about, the cognitive load, right, of doing this kind of activity, and that, there's just so much gas you have in the tank. So I would love to be able to do other things too, but by the time mid-afternoon rolls around, it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I find it difficult to get motivated, other than preparing the show for the next day, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Shows,
plural. Yes. Shows, plural.
So, is it the end of the month? No, it's not the end of the month. Yeah, I was going to say, you've got a thing coming up tonight.
Yes, I do.
Where you're on somebody else's show.
Which is great. I love being on other people's shows, because especially when there's a bunch of people who don't know me and don't know my shitty tricks and don't know my shitty jokes, you're getting up there. This is the evolution. This is a transitionary fossil. Right.
It all starts there. Once you get that, when you get that next, you do one rotation, you get into where you can do 2 rotations, and all of a sudden you're just doing it, and 5, 6, 10, and then you get into a rhythm. Yeah. It's very cool.
I'll tell you this, is that I think that probably a lot of skills are on this kind of, you can graph out those kind of similar.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Right. Because you get to a certain amount of incompetency, and then it's like a light switch. Suddenly it appears like you're super competent, when in all reality, you just, you did level up a bit, but you've been working on it for so long.
There's I think it's a global thing with like muscle memory, and with you kind of have to, one of the best things anybody ever told me about juggling is don't look at the balls.
Yeah.
Look at the room around you. You want to stand 10 feet away from the wall, look at the wall, and if the balls are moving in your peripheral vision, you're doing it right.
There was a joke there somewhere, Dave, when you said don't look at the balls. But I decided, as a gentleman, I was not going to say the joke.
If there's balls moving in your peripheral vision, you have bigger problems than dropping juggling.
Exactly. Excuse me. Yeah, so I'm going on the Free Thought Profit Show.
Scientology.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh man.
So what are you guys doing this weekend anyway?
It's the weekend?
Close enough to the weekend.
But you still work on the weekend, don't you, Dave?
Yeah, we're the only days, there's 3 days a year we don't work. and that's New Year's Day, Labor Day, and I think it's Memorial Day is the other day we don't work.
No, Memorial Day. Good. Yeah.
I'm gonna be getting set up over here.
Yeah, dude. So tell me about your whole.
Studio.
So, are you in the new place? Are you in the new
Yeah, I
residence?
mean, I haven't completely finished it. I have trim work and some other odds and ends, but it's done enough that me and Kendra can stay inside of there, and then we're gonna this place that I'm inside of right now. I'm gonna set it up to where we can re-record all of the songs, and we've been practicing, and I'm liking what I'm hearing. Kendra's having fun too, so like I'm really excited about this next step in the project.
That sounds really good, dude. Like I said, whenever you get the your home made, completed, you should come on the channel. We'll take a look at a couple of videos, maybe if you could shoot, because I am fascinated with small houses, with the tiny homes, and especially your tiny home too, because it sounds like it seems like you took a pre-existing structure and you really worked it.
Yeah, there's probably 80% of everything that I've gotten to use. It's been repurposed. Somebody gave it to me for doing work for them. Like
Right.
my sinks, there's so much of it, so much materials that were just donated to me.
So Dr. Tom Foolig, I think I'm going to put you on mute while you're practicing.
Aww.
Because I mean, the heavy breathing and everything.
Seem to be getting much better.
Oh yeah, well, right. Well, he can unmute himself.
I'll put it away.
Okay, all right.
For now, I think we should have a big finale.
Oh right. You two should just juggle away, right?
It had nice, simple things to juggle, like the small softballs like Dave uses.
Right.
That'd be much easier.
Well, these are little. These are actually little hacky sacks.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, and they make great juggling balls.
I have not hacky sacked for a long time.
The other thing.
I have a couple of those somewhere. I don't know where they are though.
The other thing that works super well as juggling balls is if you take those rubber like Milek hockey balls and you put a little slit in them. Good morning.
Good morning.
If you fill them with sand and wrap them in duct tape, they're just about the right weight for perfect juggling training balls. Yeah.
I like your Sith name, Cryptomaria.
I cannot juggle. I try, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Sort of jelly. And you have a kitty.
And he has a cat.
Double jelly.
Nice kitty.
I want to pet the kitty. Oh, yeah, kitty.
Do you realize your Canadian content just doubled?
It's incredible.
Yeah. You actually, you could almost be broadcast here.
If we had Sammy in here, we would have 50% non-US content.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oddly enough, the Canadians are below the Americans, though.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the question: Can I get subsidized by the Canadian government now?
This is going
You
a
might
long
be able
way.
to.
A long way towards.
Is this that leveling up you're talking about?
This is exactly it. Actually, this whole channel is just a way for me to get work in other countries. For me, to get contacts and network. So when the entire system falls apart in a couple of years, I can flee to another country. And it looks like Canada seems to be pretty close.
Do you think it's only going to take a couple of years, or do you think it's going to take less than a couple of years?
Okay, realistically.
Ooh, there's an elephant.
Realistically, I think that things will go sideways after, of course, the midterms, and then, I think Joe Biden's really. I still don't think Joe Biden's a great campaigner, and I don't even know who's going to be the Republican presidential candidate. Of course, no one does. in the next election cycle. But I don't want to pin my hopes on Joe Biden. I don't think that's a good bet.
Now, looking at it as a Canadian observer, I only see the one option for the GOP, and it's Trump, because Trump is a spiteful lunatic, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. And if they don't bring him to the forefront and allow him to run for a second term, he will, at the last minute, run as an independent and undermine their campaign.
Yep. Or he would sabotage it in some other way. You're right about that, Dave.
He would sink their ship.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. I think outside of, and you see this in the polls amongst the Republican, primary voters, likely voters, that they are solidly for Trump. And then if Trump doesn't run, it's Ron DeSantis at this point.
Well,
Ew.
Yeah.
Ew.
Wow. So
Sad
is
as that
Mexico
is.
using that wall? I don't see it. I see it being taken down. Can we get it? Can we ship it up here?
Right. Well, yeah.
Not like I don't love all you guys, but I love you from a distance. That's why I live on an island.
It's a big border between America and Canada. That would be a big wall you'd have to build.
We have lined our border, I
need another island.
We've lined our border with the 18,000 grizzly bears that live in British Columbia and all of those raptor geese. Those absolutely huge, awful birds that everyone hates. So there's now a border of ferocious animals and large.
Yeah, you forgot the wolves, Dave. You forgot the wolves.
The wolves, the badgers, the elk, the moose, the deer. They're all at the border. So good luck getting across anywhere but a border crossing, because they are protecting us. There's a few skunks.
Laser wolves. These things have GPS. Those little tracker systems.
Y'all are relying on that.
Parks. Oh no.
Some puppies. And I have. Well, I mean, we're cool. I think I could pass right through that.
You're blipping in and out, Mr. Templeman, despite your majestic look. Oh, Sammy, you're here. Okay, thank you. See, I don't pay attention to what's going on. What's up, Sam?
Good evening, folks. Or rather, good morning.
Good morning.
Look at that. A whole row of non-U.S. people to discuss American politics.
Yay!
That's what we're doing.
The collective wagging of the finger.
If only it was that easy. Now listen here, you
No,
people.
it's too easy. It's too easy. It's not fair. That's mean to do to them. We should be nice, because they obviously know, they're in a bad place.
Oh, yeah.
If this is an intervention, this is I love you guys. USA is so beautiful, but you've just sort of gotten slummy and awful and dangerous. I don't think you're in control of your actions anymore. Kind of want to drugs.
If this is an intervention, then I'm the disappointed relative. I'm the one that reads the big teary disappointed letter.
Oh God, if we could just take the whole Bible Belt and just re-educate them. Or educate them in the first place. Right, no offense.
We're selling all that water to Nestle down in the United States, right? I think we should just start dumping truckloads of Ritalin.
Yeah, just shut off the water.
No, fill it with Ritalin.
Yes.
If there was a drug that actually worked to make people smarter, I think it's in Canada's best interests to lace the water with that and send it down here.
Yes. We are working on that.
Yeah.
We just don't like bragging about our evil plans, or not so evil. They're evil too, obviously. But I think it's for the greater good.
if you come across the border illegally and somebody says, "Here's your free maple syrup," don't eat it.
Yeah.
Did you see Gary Priestley's comment, Andy?
This one right here, there are more people follow here. It takes a second because it's StreamYard. There are more people outside America that follow American
That
politics.
is a good point.
Yeah. Well,
Well, because they control the world. We have no choice. We have to look at the states because you fucking own the world. I'm sorry. It is like the Roman Empire, and here it is laid out 2,000 years later. This is what it looks like. And this is, I feel like Liz Estrada, and I'm like standing at the gates like, well, we're going to go down, but at least we'll have fun doing it.
well, you raise a good point, Darth Pixie. I'm going to go by your Sith name. That if we were doing this, if somehow this was, if we could do this technology 150 years ago, we'd be talking about British politics all the time. We'd be talking about what's going on in London or, in Ireland.
And now it's the States.
Yeah, now it's the States. Yeah.
Migrates.
It does. Yeah, different centers of power. It migrates. Yeah. So actually, when Samuel was trying to get in, I was thinking about doing some kind of Hugh Jackman joke on jewelry, because you have that Hugh Jackman and Logan kind of vibe going on there, without the full mutton chops and everything. But yeah,
you guys seen the Hugh Jackman Ryan Reynolds rivalry?
Well, what's that, Dave?
Have you seen Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman rivalry?
I have. And what's it about? Is it about alcohol? Is it about? It's a way to pitch something, isn't it?
It's just them staying in the limelight. Like they get 1 million hits on these videos in a day. So every time they post one of these, oh, happy birthday to him, and they're pissing each other. Have you seen the Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard?
I have not seen that. No.
In that, they're in a bar and he picks up a bottle of aviation gin and smashes it over somebody's head.
Nice. Nice.
Like, product placement.
Nice.
Well, I have to run.
Oh, hey.
Go back to chat. I just wanted to come in and say hi. Also, I did have a question. Before I go, how would the world be different today if the states had released a patent on the vaccine and made it
for general use?
Just like, here it is, it's like polio, let's fight this.
I don't think it could hurt. I think you definitely have companies in other companies. It's an interesting question because I'm not an expert in manufacturing the vaccine. So I don't know that other countries have the infrastructure to create a vaccine. So I think it. Well, just
thank you.
Oh yeah.
Happy weekend.
Take care.
Take care.
Yeah. Having worked for McKesson Pharmaceutical for a number of years, I know that all of the pharmaceutical companies out there that are doing this type of research into vaccines and stuff, for every one that they successfully get to market, there are many that are investigated and researched and tested that fail or that haven't made it yet, that still have leaps and bounds to go.
Oh, yeah.
And they spend an exorbitant amount of money on that. So when you say to somebody like, oh, well, they should release it for free. No, they should have released it for whatever the basic minimum amount that they can receive on manufacturing is, and only within the country that it was developed in. So that country who is subsidizing all of their work, who is, their tax dollars and what have you, get regurgitated into the system. But they also can make a minimal profit by selling that product outside of the country to those who need it at a reasonable price.
Yeah. There's no doubt that the current system is untenable in the long term, that it's unfair and unjust. But you're right, Dave. You got to be able to keep the gears of the industry running to some extent, right? To make it reasonable for because my girlfriend works for a startup biotech company. They're doing cancer work, oncology stuff, and it's a lot of those companies boom and bust because they don't hit anything. They don't, they do all these clinical trials, which takes a lot of time and energy, and they just don't work out. But however, you got to have like the government being able to negotiate drug prices. For some reason, that's a fucking radical thought here in the States.
Well,
Sammy's like, seems like there isn't enough of the herb that's going to make this feel okay.
Bring something to market that's remarkable, you should be able to profit from that for a period of time, but not at what one would call a criminal rate.
Yeah, like you can't price gouge people.
Yeah, there has to be. And what I would say is, like, if you came up with a drug that cures diabetes, the demand for that in the marketplace is spectacular. So the government, instead of saying, I believe there's a 7-year limit on their protection for production. So only the company that develops the drug gets to produce the drug or license the drug for production for 7 years. After that, other people can produce it, but they still have to pay the royalty. So what they should do in a case like that, if you came out with a way to cure a specific type of cancer or diabetes or a certain type of heart disease or blindness or a hearing impairment, right? Like some sort of drug that would do that, the government should apply an extreme circumstance or a greater benefit clause to that and allow those companies to make money off of them for 12 years. Or
well, there are ways for drug companies here in the States to apply and get a longer exclusivity on their drug. As the girlfriend has explained to my stupid brain a couple of times, there are ways. Like if you're doing what's called orphan drugs, which, these drugs are for very small populations, then right. your patent on that drug can last for a lot longer. I do want to say one thing. I do want to speak to this, is that there are people here in the States that will argue that our way is the only way to go about doing things, and that's not true. In Britain, I just read about it this morning. I didn't talk about it on the show, but there's a new drug out that the NHS is promoting about controlling tumors in people who have lung cancer, and it's supposed to target a certain gene within tumors, and they gave it quick acceptance, I guess, go through the legal process, and now 600 cancer patients, people who have lung cancer, are going to be the recipients of this drug. So it's a British system.
I agree with that 100%. But what I'm saying is when you get to what we call an effective marketplace, if you have a healthcare provider that, hang on, if you have a healthcare provider that
it's going to explode,
who they're covering that have diabetes, and you can make that drug affordable enough for the healthcare provider to provide it at no cost to the people who they're providing healthcare to, so that it improves their health and creates essentially less cost for them in the future. It helps the people, it helps the community, it helps everybody. But that drug has to go to market at the minimal increment price so that it can get out to the marketplace at that. But then you have to extend the longevity of the protection for the patent on that drug so that the company making it can put it into the market at a very low cost and make their investment of research back on it over a longer period of time. But it's a greater benefit to the community, the world, the environment, whatever it happens to be, right?
What I am curious about is this mythological place called effective marketplace. Because if I was, I have to tell you, if I had a buzzer, I'm gonna fucking hit it right there. Like, tell me more about Narnia, sir. And this is when you say, fuck you, Andy.
Well, there's.
I should just have a buzzer. It's like, I'm sorry.
I guarantee you, if such a place exists, it will not be on the eastern seaboard of the United States.
Effective marketplace. It's like, libertarianism would work if, or blah, 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 blah. It's like, really? No, I'm sorry, Dave, for giving you shit, but as soon as you said that, I'm like,
you're completely right to question that. And that's why we need the capitalism is the one side of the balance on the scale, and government restriction is the other side of the balance in this case. So when you say to someone, you've developed a fantastic drug, we love it, we're going to put it into market, we're going to create an effective marketplace, and we're going to extend your patent for 20 years so that you can make this money back 10 times over, but it's going to be such a great benefit to the human beings on this planet that we want everyone to have the opportunity to take advantage.
So effective marketplace is basically the state curtails some of the more pernicious aspects of the capitalist system.
You know how there's snakes in
This is a yes or no question, Dave.
You know how there's snakes in that medical symbol?
Dave agrees with me.
It's to prevent us from getting bitten by those snakes.
Yes.
So yes,
So,
my answer is yes.
Okay.
So in terms of production, though,
in
terms of production, though, if you just let anyone produce it, but require some sort of standard, whatever it's called, the royalties, I guess. What's wrong with that?
That's a good question too. If someone, right. So what you're saying, if I let my meat brain kind of wrap itself around what you're saying. So in other words, it would be like, sure, the information is out there, you can produce it, but you have to pay a couple of shekels. You got to pay some money back to the originators, back to the people who hold the patents, so to speak.
Yeah, so they still guaranteed to make money on the production. You just don't have the exclusive right to produce under that situation.
Right. And I think that would be a reasonable, especially with something as major as the polio or the vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine. That seems to be reasonable.
So you're saying if you do it in conjunction, so regulate the ridiculous prices on medications, and at the same time let other companies produce it and pay royalties, so the company's still getting their dollar, but it's not costing the patient.
Well, that's the thing. You have to take the limit of manufacturing off of it immediately. If it's something like the COVID vaccine, right? We have one company out there that's generating pharmaceuticals for Indonesia, one that's working directly with India, one that's working with Western Europe, one that's working with, and there's no way that we could produce enough. I mean North America, there's a lot of companies that cross borders between the United States and Canada. So I kind of use that term we inclusively. But if you cannot produce enough vaccine, which we know Pfizer, Moderna, they couldn't keep up with the demand. That's why we had that whole spacing on first dose, second dose, and why Australia is still running their second doses around, right? It's a bit of a mess. But if you say, okay, we're going to allow all of the drug manufacturers to open the door today, they're all going to pay a royalty, and that royalty is going to extend 20 years into the future, right? That's the way to get it out in the market, to create that word again, effective marketplace, a marketplace that works for the people who want the product, who want to buy it. And like I said, if you retain that within the United States and say that manufacturing must stay within the United States for that period, then you're building your own economy. You're not farming it out to France or England or Germany, or, it's staying where the money should stay.
If I'm a worker and I personally don't give a fuck if the oligarchs in this country are making buckets of money, as long as they're getting enough to do their job. That's what I care about.
I don't care either. I don't care that they're making bucket loads of money, and I don't care that people are, the golden parachutes. When they smarten up and figure this out, I mean, it's being run, like you say, by an oligarchy. So it's not going to change in the near future. It may change in the distant future. But what I care about is when they create an insulin shot, that one shot cures you. Every damn person on this planet should be able to get that shot within 30 days.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Agreed. At
a reasonable price. Like, everyone should be able to get, when I say get it, I don't just mean manufacturing and putting it in front of them. I mean at a reasonable price or at no cost according to their health provider.
Right. I mean, it should just be one of those blanket, because once again, healthcare is a basic human right. If suddenly you have, it's something that governments could easily afford. There's obviously a way to do it without squeezing people out of money.
You mean the government could afford $1 trillion in medication? Oh, wait, no, they already gave that $3 trillion away to other people.
Well, if you can find, I don't know whatever forever war the U.S. is going to start engaging in within the next 5 years, to tell you the truth. But it would be nice if they would use that money now to spend it on, like, healthcare and getting things done, but that's not happening.
Yeah, I think the whole idea of coming out of Afghanistan was everything was getting too balanced and controlled. There was no uprising, and there was no domination, and there was no U.S. supremacy. And the only way to achieve U.S. supremacy in Afghanistan is to let the inmates start running the asylum and get to the big time crazy over there, to the point where NATO and the European Union and other people step in and say, all right, something has to be done again.
Yeah.
You've got to let the dog off the leash before you create the problem and can euthanize the dog.
We went over this story a couple of weeks ago when the actual pullout started. I want to back up a little bit. I was reading in the Economist this issue about France and Afghanistan, and they were like, I believe the Australians, they just got out early. They saw the writing on the wall, and they were out, I think, like weeks before the actual disaster occurred. And there's definitely some voices on the continent, on Europe, who are thinking that they can't depend on the states. And that is probably the most logical thing. Trying to depending your collective security on the United States of America. That's like the Ukraine depending on the U.S. to stand up for it. It's a poor idea. Yeah, and Afghanistan, there are these arguments, and I've heard it from people on the right, that we could have stayed in Afghanistan because we're staying in Germany and Korea and Japan, and that's the false equivalency argument, everyone. That is the false equivalency argument, because the only reason why American forces, why NATO forces weren't being attacked by the Taliban is because we had a deal with them. If that deal was off, they would just go back to attacking, NATO targets in Afghanistan.
Yeah. And it was essentially, we'll stop drone striking your leaders if you stop attacking our bases.
I don't know. I mean, if you pay attention to Iraq and Afghanistan, what's been going on in the last 20 years, I don't know how many so-called leaders of these organizations have been assassinated. Or Iran, for that matter, too. But it just seems like when you have a population of millions in arms against you, you can blow up, drone strike a lot of leaders, and the really has limited effect on on their organizations in general.
Well, and they're kind of using the same format as a lot of large corporations and military institutions use. Is if one general gets knocked out, that doesn't disable all the troops. They have orders that come down from above, and when that general goes missing, another general steps in or another general takes over, and it's a different type of warfare because you're not fighting a country, you're fighting an ideal. And you can't kill 40 people to kill the 3 you want to kill.
Well, when you look at Vietnam and you look at Afghanistan, there are clear clear similarities, right? So you're fighting an idea as well as countries at the same time, because in Vietnam you're fighting an idea as well as the North Vietnam. You're fighting North Vietnam as well as its allies. In Afghanistan, you're not only fighting in idea, but you're also fighting Pakistan for all intents and purposes, because they're just basically supporting the Taliban, and they're allowing migration between the two countries.
I don't know if it's a support as much as it's a fear of repercussions combined with a sort of that as long as your dog doesn't shit in my yard, I don't care where your dog shits,
Well, that has some limitations in terms of strategy. So
but
yeah,
they
the
don't have the
Pakistani
ability to prevent it, right? Like what is Pakistan going to do against the Taliban that the Taliban couldn't retaliate in a major way?
Basically Pakistan wants Afghanistan to be like a buffer state, or doesn't want India in Pakistan.
Yeah.
And so they're willing to burn down anything that's not pro Pakistan. The Germans tried a certain strategy like that with the Russians during the revolution. They just said, we're going to throw Lenin in there and see what happens. Didn't work out well for Germany in the long run. So that's the problem. You decide to set, and this is not my image. This is from Dan Carlin, who does hardcore history. It's like when you decide to light fire to your neighbor's house, there's a good chance your house is going to burn down too.
Yeah.
And so, you feed insurgency and religious fanatics across the border, then there's, you don't have to be a genius to see what kind of blowback that can occur in your own country.
If I can go back to one of the comments I made earlier on today in reference to what Germany did with empowering Russia, that went well.
Yeah. Yeah. Indeed. I've been listening. What's up? You silence yourself, Sammy.
I deserve it. I'm a terrible man. Self-flagellation, I don't know. Flagellation? Hang on. Flagellation.
Flagellation, right.
There's a really interesting list I seen the other day of the Axis powers and Ally powers if we went into World War III. And it was a video on the armies involved and who might possibly win that war. Fascinating, but I can't find the list because I was going to ask you guys. I was going to read the list and see who you think would win, knowing who's on what list.
Well,
it's pretty scary.
Yeah. Well, that's assuming, I imagine, that things don't go nuclear at the jump. Right. So
yeah, that's assuming no nuclear. Yeah.
Yeah. So what people don't realize is that Japan has like an insane amount of conventional forces.
So does China.
Yeah. Well,
the power in China is ridiculous.
Yeah. So Japan might be able to hold off, fend for itself for a period of time against China. But yeah, Australia is awfully close to China from what I've seen on the map.
The problem with Japan choosing sides at this point, I think Japan has to turn into a Switzerland, because as an island nation, they're effed. It's too easy to bomb that entire island flat.
Yeah.
And whether you use nuclear or not, you know that it's not your own border that you're bombing, and you're not bombing your allies. You could take down Japan in a weekend if you are willing to do anything to get it done.
If Japan stopped, if anything, they're talking about doing a Pacific version of NATO. And I think that's the way things are moving, so that there is some kind of hedge against the expansion of mainland China's power and like the South China Sea and other potential territorial ambitions.
Well, can I just say that of the top 10 most powerful or largest armies in the world, that 7 of those wouldn't be allies. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
That's pretty fucking scary.
Yeah.
Did you know that the United States has the 2 largest air forces in the world? They have the U.S. Air Force, and they have the mothballed fleet of planes at Davis-Monthan Airport in the Nevada desert, where it's dry and things don't rust and corrode. They have literally the 2nd largest air force wrapped in white plastic sitting in the desert.
Interesting.
The U.S. Navy is also one of the largest air forces in the world.
Yeah. Well, it is the Air Force. I mean, technically it's counted. Those planes are all counted in the U.S. Air Force.
Nope.
But they're serving.
Navy is separate.
Well, the stats that I read when they were talking about this, they were inclusive because those pilots, they start their aviation training with the Air Force and they move into specialized sea operations and force projection operations after they get their pilot's license and all that. Yeah.
I heard on Sam Harris on one of his podcasts, and I try to listen to Sam Harris when he's not trying to attack the left, and I try to, when on AI, especially in issues of AI, I like listening to his podcast. And
artificial intelligence, right?
Artificial intelligence, and one of the things that he pointed out is that whichever side obtains like super AI first, that is going to be a game changer in the ways like having a nuclear bomb first was a game changer. It dramatically changes the balance of power.
Well, I think
Judgment Day.
I think you're underestimating and like the next leap in technology. We already have drones. We have guys sitting in Bakersfield, California, flying drones globally on the GPS system, right? Under secure encryption, and they're developing securities for that every day. Well, don't think for a second that the United States hasn't figured out a way to attack everybody else's drones and put them in the ocean, right? So they are trying to stay superior, not just in the type of tanks, the type of armament, the type of weapons they use, the drones that they develop, but also in the counter, to counter the strategies of other countries. But the big leap that the United States has to be working on, Area 51 and other places, is literally having an office like a call center where guys, we have smart bombs now where they can put a bomb through a 3-foot wide window with like 9 out of 10 accuracy. But if you can fly drones and jet fighters for air-to-air combat missions, and you can put an F-16 in the air with a guy in Bakersfield flying that plane in New York, over northern New York State for air-to-air operations where guys go into simulations and that, then you can definitely go head-to-head. But what you can also do is arm those cruise missiles with remote controls. So you can literally launch cruise missiles, and once you acquire a target, you can have a person in anywhere on Earth sit down with the joysticks in their hand, put that thing through somebody's windshield, right? So that sort of force projection without the cost of life, with that kind of accuracy, is the next level of what's going to happen. When you can hit a tank and you never miss, or you miss like 1 out of 25 times, and maybe you have a systems failure 1 out of 20 times.
I'm going to say this. I'm going to say I think the real future of, if we're talking about putting on my prophet hat here, is that it's probably going to be more about what Israel did to the Iranians in terms of their nuclear program, right? In terms of taking over some software and making your software do things that it shouldn't be doing. And that will probably be the biggest game changer. So more of what, and because we're already seeing that now, obviously, we're seeing that in terms of affecting elections, which we saw, of course, in 2016. But in terms of real nuts and bolts on the field or in conflict, I think that would be a major effect when you have, like, I don't know, electrical generation disrupted, when you have a banking system imploding. That kind of warfare.
When you have these systems and controls that you're speaking of all over Canada, all over the United States, because the United States has been buying the cheapest, most affordable products that'll get the job done for the last 20 years. And you have a manufacturer in China who is known to have done industrial espionage and literally taken blueprints and schematics out of companies that they have put these controls and systems in. What happens if they're on the other side? How many of those systems shut down, get corrupted, fail to work, suddenly stop working, go dead, go dark? Like, how much of that affects this whole electronic espionage, right? Like, how much of that goes down? And that's a really serious, big question. When a company like Huawei, who is known to have done this, right?
I do want to point out something from Theo in the chat, is that the Saudis have pretty much lost their little Cold War against the Iranians. That's why they're cozying up with the Israelis. And their proxy wars have gone poorly. And Iran isn't like in a great position for obvious reasons. But in terms of, I've had Keva Maseva from Iran. He's an atheist over in Tehran, and he hasn't been on for a while, but I have to get him back on. The Iranian government hates the Saudis in ways that we do not really understand, and so Saudi Arabia has lost their Cold War against Iran, thanks to us, by the way, thanks to our own stupidity in Iraq and Afghanistan, and especially in Iraq, because we basically gave Iraq to the Iranians, as well as Syria. So that's a little bit of nuggets there.
And if I can answer a question, Cryptomaria asked, aren't nuclear silos still on floppy disks? There are no active nuclear silos. All of the nukes in the United States are launched now by mobile forces, mostly submarines.
Yeah.
And the reason is, if you have a nuclear silo and your enemy knows about it, which GPS and Google Earth will tell you where they are, they're really easy to hit and eliminate. If they're 300 meters under the ocean and you don't know where they are, they're really hard to eliminate. So there are no active nuclear silos in the United States any longer.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I did not know that. That is cool.
Yeah. And the thing is, these mobile missile launchers, the Germans had them in World War II with the V2s. I mean, this was something that is not new technology.
No.
You know what would be even cooler if we just didn't have any nukes at all? Everybody just let it go.
It would be helpful, at least if it took like some time to manufacture nukes, like in case you need them. It would be nice if we didn't have any yet. But on that note,
so like a 3-day waiting period.
No, maybe you should talk to a friend. Maybe you should talk to what's that?
Background checks.
Background checks. I see the girlfriend in the chat, and it's like, I know you're not here, girlfriend. At least I don't think you're in the apartment somewhere. So are you goofing off at work? Is that what's going on right now?
Oh, we're all allowed to goof off now and then. Everybody gets a coffee break now and then.
No, this is
and I think you all underestimate this drone technology. Why do you think birds land on power lines?
To recharge.
To recharge.
What?
They're government drones, I'm telling you. They're watching us, Andy.
I heard about
all
that.
The birds have been replaced with government drones. They're watching everything.
That's right. That's right. And you guys have the emus. Emus are just a good domestic, defense force right there.
I think there's small people inside them. They're actually just costumes. Government agents.
Well, here you go. You get some fresh baked conspiracies right here, everyone.
Yeah. All right. We should say before we hit the 60.
Just one more thing. So you're saying that basically emus are like Daleks in a way.
Daleks.
Some kind of other thing.
They absorb other life forms into themselves. Become evil.
I never thought of the Dalek emu connection, but now that you brought that up, it will haunt my nightmares.
That's why their eyes shine at night.
That's it.
They got the little electronics.
So was that
going on in there.
1980s Atari game Joust?
Joust.
Like, was that like Ahead of the Curve or something like that? That's where they got the idea.
Complete emu warfare right there, my friend. All right. On that note, thank you everyone who was watching. Thank you, panel. Monday, right? And I'm like I said, I'm on the Free Thought Prophet. Shambhala Hamala. I'm on the Free Thought Prophet at 5:30 tonight.
Woohoo! Thanks everybody in the chat.
And
Hey, Rude Chat.